Hey everyone, thank you for joining another episode of the Caviling. We're here today with Ernesto again.
Hi everyone.
So today we have a couple hot topics. First, Tesla, everybody's favorite car manufacturer to either love or hate.
Right.
No surprise, I'm on the more hate side than the love side. And no surprise, Ernesto is more on the love side.
Love it.
Yep, absolutely, he loves it. So, they made a big announcement. It seems like Tesla makes a big announcement about once a week.
And then they walk it back.
Yeah, I was going to say, so, first you're going to get a discount on full self-driving, half off. Now you're not going to be able to.
Yeah, that change rolls back on Monday, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say, that is actually a pretty big deal. I understand why they rolled back, but it was ill thought out at the very beginning.
Yeah, I think they were trying to get their stock up and get a lot of people to buy things, but they didn't know what was going to help. So
They need money, and so I think that's what they wanted. They lower that price of people that already bought the cars, and they can get money. But it made everybody else angry that had already paid full price for it. And then walking it back just puts them in this weird thing where everybody's upset. So the people, I feel like that just made everybody upset.
Right.
So after they made everyone upset, they were like, well, crap, we need to do something. So they, in classic Tesla fashion, released pre-ordering for the Model Y, which then you won't get your car for a really long time.
Right. It's fall of 2020. So it's over a year from now.
It's like 18 months.
Yeah.
So,
which is sooner than Tesla typically puts out cars. I will say that. If they meet the target.
How often have they actually made their target?
Pretty much never. But I will say that this time they are doing something smart, and they are building the Model Y on the Model 3 platform. So it's not a completely radically new car. It's actually 76% of the parts from the Model 3 are what make up the Model Y. So there's actually a chance that they could actually meet the production goal this time.
But there's a chance.
Yeah.
There's a chance. There's a chance of a lot of things. I want to go to one point. I was actually kind of excited about the Model Y because my wife and I want to go down to one car because we don't do a lot of driving, and one car would be fine because I work from home. She works from home. One car would be fine, and especially with the 7 seats that you can get, it's an extra $3,000 for that back seat.
Right.
But 7 seats is plenty for us. But I still don't think that they've delivered on a mass market car. I was going through the pricing, and if you put $10,000 down, which is not a small amount, so I'm talking about putting a large chunk down.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't have $10,000 in the bank.
Right. So, you are still going to pay $772 a month for your a 5-year loan. Yeah. If you want to take the RAV4, which is considered a very good car. I actually took the RAV4 hybrid, so you're actually getting some better gas mileage, and did a loan on that. Doing the same $10,000 down, you're looking at a payment of around $271 using the same interest rate that Tesla was offering from their website, the 3.75% monthly APR.
It's tough. It's a tough choice, even though Teslas are still premium cars. They're still it's not the same category as a RAV4. It's more like a BMW or a Mercedes, right? But it still doesn't quite meet the goal of having a mass market affordable car for everybody.
Well, and that was my point. Not that for the price it was bad per se, but more of Elon keeps saying he's bringing a mass market. And just for all of you that go and fact check me, this was for the long range edition with all wheel drive, because that's going to be the one that's actually available. Because if you want the the cheapest model, which is you're gonna have to wait like 3 years because it's like 2020 or 21.
Yeah, it's at least 2021, so
Right.
it'll be more like 2.5, almost 3 years. Yeah.
Yeah. So I wasn't doing that one because you can't get that even remotely soon. So I was doing the sooner one. So which is it's a nicer car. It has 300 miles of range, which is I think very nice. Or 280. The all-wheel drive has the 280.
280. Yeah. Rear-wheel drive has 300.
Has 300, but if you drive on snow, obviously Ernesto will bring up the point that it's weighted better than a car that has the engine in the front and the wheels on the back.
Yeah.
But the thing with snow is that your front wheels are, if they're what's pulling it, they're also what's steering it. So you're still going to have the problem with the torque in the back and the steering in the front. But it will be weighted better, so I think it will. It's a valid point that it won't be as bad.
It won't be as bad. And, when I was considering buying a Model 3, I looked into it because I really thought, I've always driven a front-wheel drive car, and I feel comfortable driving front-wheel drive in the snow. I never had an issue. So I was hoping they would make it front-wheel drive only, but I looked up some videos of people that bought the rear-wheel drive Model 3. And basically, as long as you put snow tires on it, it is perfectly fine. And as long as you're not driving crazy, right? You just need to slow down a little bit and not take hard corners.
You have an all-electric car, which means you're going to be accelerating fast, so...
You just shouldn't do it. Don't do it.
And to back up your point, we both know a person who owns a Model S with just rear-wheel drive, and he has not had a problem.
Right.
But I would still say that Tesla has failed to bring a mass-market car. BMW, I don't consider the high-end BMWs mass-market cars. I consider them wannabe rich people cars. It's like you don't have enough money to like actually hang out with the rich people, but you want to separate yourself. You buy a Tesla now instead of a BMW.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think in order to hit a truly mass-market car, you need to hit a $18,000 to $21,000 price point.
Even 30. If they had gotten it at 30,
I can kind of see like that's like the top end of
it would be the really nice mass market car. And considering you'd have some electric savings, I think you could make the argument for 30.
So here's what I think. So far, all of the Teslas across the board have gone down in price because the federal tax incentive went down. So you used to get $7,500. Now it's down to about $3,700.
Just for Tesla, because Tesla's the only one that has hit the
200,000 cap.
Right.
Yeah. So they sold 200,000 cars. They were the first one. So now their tax incentive went down. Well, the price of their Model 3 went down about the same amount, which I've basically like predicted this. Like I always talk about how all of the electric cars right now are overpriced by $7,500.
The federal government is literally just handing the car makers an extra $7,500, and I really don't like it because that's literally all it is, and it makes you have to do extra tax work. I know the purpose of it. I think it's just being abused. You look at the Bolt. The Bolt, I think, is a fantastic car. But I think it's about $7,500 overpriced.
Exactly. Yeah. And we saw that the Tesla went down by the amount that the incentive went down. And I think when the incentive goes down completely, the $35,000 Model 3 will be a $30,000 Model 3.
But they didn't change the lowest base price Model 3. So every other Model 3 went down by like $2,000. It wasn't quite as much as the incentive went away, but it was
close.
It was close.
Yeah.
But they didn't change the 35, which actually just incentivized you not to get the $35,000 model.
They don't want you to buy the $35,000 model, and I don't think anybody is, because they have that standard plus model that's $3,800 that gives you tons more stuff. And you're almost like, well, if I'm already spending $35,000, I can spend $38,000 and get way cooler stuff in this car. They're banking on that nobody's buying the standard like base model.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely. Now, one cool thing about seeing cars that are in the $35,000 to $40,000 range today is that those are the used cars of tomorrow. The used cars that people might actually be able to afford at $18,000 to $20,000 3 to 5 years from now.
And if they release the Model Y with the rims that they show on here, those are almost worth the $46,700. They're really sweet rims.
Yeah, it's an awesome looking car. Don't get me wrong. I love it.
It actually looks like a car, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It doesn't quite look large enough to be an SUV, but that's maybe just the picture. I haven't seen it. They need to show it beside like a Model 3.
Right. It's only 10% bigger than the Model 3, so it's not a giant.
How are you getting
SUV.
7 people in there?
Very cramped. You'll have to check out some videos. Maybe we'll show some on the next episode. But that third row is basically meant for either short people or for kids.
Are short people,
right? Yeah. So, it's cool. It's a really neat concept to have
My
that extra
mother
row.
would be able to sit in the third row.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of why it's there for. It's that it gives you the opportunity of like, oh, okay, I have 2 kids and I'm picking up some family members. The kids can sit in the back, and then you can fit normal size adults in the second row.
Well, and that's actually what my wife and I liked about this, is because we have 3 kids, and if they want to bring a friend, well, we can drive them in our car, but we can't take a friend. I mean,
Right.
last I checked, it was illegal to stick them in the trunk. The police get upset when you stick kids in the trunk. I don't know why. I was like, it's the safest place with a front collision, but so
funny enough, on the Model S, you can add 2 seats
in the trunk.
In the trunk, and it's probably it is. I think, according to Elon, it's the safest part of the Model S.
For a front collision, you have to go through the whole car,
right.
As well as actually, and I'm really angry with car makers because this is, if you flip the seats around, so you were all looking backwards, the seat would actually absorb the shock and not a seatbelt. So like seatbelts break people's collarbones because when they fall into it, it pulls right on their collarbone.
Right, yeah.
And it's not good. If you were looking backwards, you would actually just be pressed into a seat, as well as the seat would protect from stuff crumpling into you. I think that the driver should literally be the only person looking forward.
And I imagine that's why generally baby seats are in
Absolutely.
reverse, right?
Because the straps aren't pulling on them because it would hurt or kill them.
Right.
Yes. So I would love to see a car where all the seats except for the driver's seats are looking backwards. Now, one problem with that is people that get car sick get more car sick when looking backwards.
Right.
So maybe that's another reason. I don't know.
Could be. Yeah.
I would just laugh at all the people getting car sick, except that my children get really car sick, so I just have a lot of people throwing up.
Yeah.
But so I actually generally think that investors overreacted, because I think the Model 3 really, the only thing it didn't deliver on for me was price. But I was expecting this price. This is a standard Elon Musk.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to build a cheap car. He wants to build as premium of a car as he can.
Yeah, and I think so far, because of the expense of battery technologies, this is as cheap as electric cars are going to get for now. I think in 2 to 3 years, you're going to start seeing solid state batteries or some kind of new battery that will cost maybe half the price.
I'm also hoping, because the Bolt still gets the $7,000. I am hoping that they lop off $4,000 or $5,000, because they still are getting that. And as we were saying, it's probably slightly overpriced just because of the federal tax. So I'm hoping that with the $35,000 one coming out, that the Bolt drops to maybe 30.
That would be good, but the Bolt is losing money right now. Even at the current price point, Chevy loses money on every Bolt that's sold.
Is that because they're not producing enough?
I think that's part of it. Also, because the majority of the car was designed by LG. So, like, I think the drivetrain and the battery are definitely the battery. LG Chem did those, and so none of it's in house. So it's all expensive. It's a compliance vehicle, basically. But
the Bolt, not because it's. I mean, I went and test drove one. Sure. So all the compliance vehicles are California and Oregon only.
That's true, but I think it still falls into the compliance vehicle category, because they need it in order to raise the average miles per gallon of their entire fleet. That's why every car manufacturer, just about every manufacturer, has an electric car, even if it's a not so good one. Because when you throw in a car that has 100 miles per gallon, all of a sudden your average gets vastly, adjusted.
So I actually thought that it was, instead of compliance, it was public opinion. So we're going to waste X grand on people thinking that we're cool, hey, we have one. Are we losing money? Sure, we'll lose a little bit of money, but they're not that popular to buy because they're still kind of expensive. And people will think that we're cool because it's not just compliance. It's not just California and Oregon. So, so sorry we don't have as many visuals. I actually was flying all week, so I was out a little bit, which will bring us to our next topic. We kind of had a couple because while we could talk about Tesla the entire time, that was mostly what we wanted. Never fly with United Airlines, ever.
You heard it here, folks.
Yeah, I have had the worst experience. First, I was in the smallest jet I think I have ever been. I couldn't actually sit up straight. I'm not that tall of a person. I'm 6'2". That's like just barely above average. And I could hit the top where like the air vent is with my head. Not my hair, because my hair does kind of stick up. It gives me a
Was it a small plane? Like, how many people do you think?
Maybe 7,500.
Okay, so it's a really tiny plane.
Yeah, it was from Dulles to here. So it was just a little, but it was very small and very uncomfortable for me.
Yeah.
Their UX designer should not have a job any longer. So we're in these little seats and they're armrests, right? Well, right where your elbow sits is right where the controls for the screen are. So if you or the person beside you rest your arm on the armrest, you inevitably change the volume, the brightness, or the channel that you're watching. And not only that, you can't reach it.
You have to be a contortionist to...
What I found is you use your other arm and you look over like this and are typing on this side. Literally the worst design. I mean, Delta puts them on the side of the screen. I mean, yes, you have to raise your arm. It's a lot of work. You get shoulder pain from raising your arm to press buttons. It's terrible, but it's way less terrible than this. The power outlets, I was like, oh, good. They have power outlets like a normal person, except they're up underneath your seat. So you have to jam your finger up in the outlet to find where it is, and then try to get the plug up in there underneath the seat, and it's basically unusable.
So, I've basically given up on things like that. And so I carry a giant 21,000 milliamp hour battery. So I can plug everything into that because I don't want to deal with anything. I don't want to even think about whether the plane has an outlet or not. Some of them do, some of them don't. So whatever. I bring my own giant battery. I bring one that is at the legal limit for carrying on a plane. And then apart from that, a lot of new planes have moved away from having screens at all because everyone has either a phone or a tablet on them. So if you're flying Southwest, what they do have is Wi-Fi on the plane, and then you can stream TV shows to your phone.
Okay, so I consider myself slightly technical. I am a senior software engineer. I'm decently technical. I could not connect to their Wi-Fi for the life of me.
Oh yeah.
There was zero instructions, so you connect to the Wi-Fi. There was no login portal that popped up, and so for Delta, it's like wi-fi.delta.com, and you can go there and you can either pay for internet or watch their movies. Could not figure it out without asking the flight attendant because they had no published.
I've only had success with Southwest as far as Wi-Fi goes. And it's been pretty good. I've been able to watch TV shows and movies, and also they have a little flight tracker where it tells you how long you have. So that's been really great.
Deltas, I've had success with Delta, so I mostly fly Delta.
Yeah.
Now, all of my grievances are just small complaints mostly. I'll nitpick that when you're so close to it, the little air thing is actually like blowing in your hair and it's making a sound because like you're only an inch away
Well,
from
if
it.
you needed a blow dryer, you got one.
It was perfect.
Yeah.
It worked perfectly.
Right.
The largest grievance against United Airlines, I paid for my ticket. Well, my company paid for my ticket. I expect a advertisement-free flight. I'm sorry. I understand that they have the pamphlets and they're going to have advertisements for whatever in those pamphlets. But when the hostess gets on the thing and goes through the whole security thing, make sure you have your seatbelt on, blah, 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 exits are here. And then as soon as she's finished with that, she's like, and just for the customers flying right now, you can sign up for a credit card, and goes into a 5-minute sales pitch on why we need to sign up for the credit card on the flight. Then, when refreshments was going out, another advertisement. Then, just before we land, hurry up, you won't have this offer once we land. And this happened on both flights with United.
Wow. And
I considered that just, they went one step.
Much. Yeah. I mean, you're already paying for the flight. Like, I could get it if it was some kind of like discounted
free flight or something.
Free flight or heavily discounted flight with like, I don't know.
It was over the PA, so I assume like even first class. I wasn't in first class, but I assume first class
probably
also got the announcement.
Yeah, those airlines really love pushing their credit cards with like the free mile incentives and all that.
And don't get me wrong, every single time I log into Delta, Delta will be like, hey, you can get my X card.
Sky Miles Visa or whatever.
Right, but it's like on the side, and they have never announced it. I am actually going to write them an email with a formal complaint, because I feel like if we don't go and complain about it, they'll keep doing it because people probably sign up for it.
Yeah.
But that was my...
Yeah, it's no cool. It's not really cool to do that over the PA.
You can't not listen to it.
You can't opt out. Like, it's a very captive audience, right?
I mean, that's probably why they did it. They're like, hey guys, they have to listen to this. They're in a small cramped cabin.
Yeah, he's like, that's it, I quit. I'm jumping off the plane.
Where's the parachute?
Right. Yeah, that's unfortunate, but we'll see. Maybe if enough people complain, they'll change it. So,
well, that's why I'm going to email them, because I feel like if we don't do that, I feel like a lot of times, and I actually do write a lot of emails. People think that I just like complaining a lot, but what it stems from is if we don't raise our voice about these things, one, they won't know that it really irked me, and two, I'm sure that they understand that it's going to bother a few people, but it's cost reward. How many people are going to sign up for their credit card versus how many are they going to really irk? We should let them know that the irking is real.
Yeah.
And Dulles Airport has these, I call them tank people movers, because they're like 2-story high. They have big old wheels, and it's a terrible airport because Terminal D is separated from everything else, and you have to ride this tank people mover. Which they herd you on like cattle. We were literally like touching and cramped down, and we're all like, okay, we can go now.
It's like a tram, like, but not on a track. It's just on wheels, right?
And you're like 2.5 stories high. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's like a armored tank.
Weird.
It's
hopefully there's not a wind that would blow it over.
If I wasn't, oh no, this thing had to be like 8 tons. Like, it's when I say armored people mover, like,
yeah.
It was an armored people mover. It was heavy. Nothing was blowing it over. But and the Dulles Airport bathrooms were just dirty. I don't know. I think we're here in Louisville. We have like, our airport's really nice. It's small.
Yeah.
You get to where you want. Everything's clean.
Yeah. I mean, they call it an international airport, but I don't even know. They might have one international flight.
No, I actually don't think they have any international flight. UPS at night, I think, flies internationally out of there.
Yeah.
So I don't think that for you and me, there's any international flight that leaves Louisville. I think UPS, because UPS runs our airport at night.
Yeah. It's a tiny airport, but it is nice. They do maintain it pretty well.
Yeah, it's
easy to get in and out of too. So.
All right. So, Captain Marvel.
Oh, speaking of pilots, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I watched the movie over the weekend.
I watched the
trailer.
The trailer.
So Eric's gonna form an opinion on the trailer.
I was gonna say I already formed a pretty bad opinion from the trailer.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody knows my opinions on Superman or Thor, because I know Superman's not Marvel, but Thor I put in the same category. Mm-hmm. You have these beings which have to be straight up stupid or challenged by a god figure. Uh-huh. And I really don't like that because... So in Superman's case, he's like, I see Lex Luthor from 3 miles away. He has a lead box I can't see in. I could melt him with my laser eyes from here, or I could walk up and see what's in the box. It's probably just like a ring or, something innocent and harmless. So I'm going to do the really stupid part and just walk up to him.
Right. Yeah. Even though he's tried to poison you with kryptonite like 100 times.
Like 100 million times. Like, he knows your weakness.
Right.
He has a kryptonite necklace that he wears. Actually, I never know why he doesn't wear just a kryptonite necklace. So you can't touch this, dude. I don't know. Lex Luthor is a little dumb too. Like, he comes up with these really extravagant plots where he could just like literally wear a kryptonite necklace. But yeah, so like, I don't like these types of characters. Mm-hmm. And I saw the trailer, and Captain Marvel... First, you have two superheroes in the same universe that start with Captain. Please don't do that. Please...
Which Captain are you talking about?
Lieutenant Marvel or General Marvel or something else Marvel. Mm-hmm. And she looked like Superman to me. I'm sorry. Like, the little bit I saw, it looked like a Superman character that just had awesome, like, a bajillion abilities. Like,
right, yeah. Yeah, definitely, she does have that kind of crazy god tier of powers, for sure, yeah. And it does make it difficult to... Well, it definitely makes Superman a difficult watch sometimes, because it's like, what's the struggle here? Like, he's pretty much... invulnerable.
You reversed time.
Right. It's like he has every power possible. Yeah. And that's probably why Superman tends to be one of my least favorite characters.
Besides that it's DC. We won't get into that part.
But I do like some of the stories centered around, how to control a supreme being like that basically you can't control, right? Like, so they tried to get into that in Batman versus Superman with the whole like scenes where they were trying to get Superman to appear in court.
Okay,
so that,
1 second. 1 out of 10 Superman versus Batman.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Wait.
Really
Which one? Where were you going to put those?
I would probably put it at it's close to a 1 out of 10 for me. Maybe a 2 out of 10. Yeah.
Faith restored in you. I was putting it in the negatives on that scale.
Right. It's actually one of my least favorite superhero movies. For a lot of reasons. I think we should have an episode on why Batman versus Superman. We should just do that one.
I feel like it deserves...
Yeah. And then we need to bring in Matthew, because he loves Batman versus Superman. So I need to hear why he likes it so much.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
We'll do Batman versus Superman.
Maybe next episode or one of these upcoming episodes, we'll talk about that.
I mean, we could do it in par with Captain Marvel, since we're doing it along that line. So maybe next week. That means I have to watch 2 movies again, because I'll need to freshen up. Because I'm going to be honest, I started watching Batman versus Superman and I stopped about halfway. Like, I literally... I saw the one scene with Wonder Woman in it. I was like, that's the best scene I've seen so far. And then I walked out. I was like... I watched it once, and then my girlfriend Nikki hadn't watched it. So I watched it with her again because Wonder Woman was coming out, and there is a direct tie-in with that movie. So I was like, we might as well watch it. So I watched it again, and it was just as bad as I remembered. And, sometimes I watch a movie again, and I'm like, okay, maybe I was a little overly critical, or I wasn't in the right mindset when I watched it. No, it was bad. It was just bad. Some of those really terrible movies, you just have to watch again when you're slightly drunk, and it gets a little bit better. You're like, I just hadn't drank enough before I started watching it.
Yeah.
now I'm slightly inebriated, and it was fun.
You're right. Yeah,
Batman Superman is not this.
Yeah,
so
it's not. So anyway, like with Captain Marvel, there were a lot of things that I loved about it. I think the special effects. So there were some things that were really good and some things that were not so great. So they made Samuel L. Jackson look young, and that was probably the best special effects that I've seen in a while.
Now, did it look like special effects, or did they?
It didn't. And that's the thing. It looked natural.
It looked natural.
I'm
going to hold this to you.
They've perfected the art of making actors look young, because it looked.
It was all lotion.
It was just caked on makeup. Yeah. No, I mean, like, so they're finally applying like machine learning, and they're feeding these computers thousands of images of Samuel L. Jackson
when he was young,
right?
80 years ago.
Right. And then the computer's able to form images no matter which direction he's looking at, or no matter what angle the camera is shooting him from.
Do you know what this would have been good for?
Tron. Tron Legacy.
I was going to say the Solo movie.
Oh yeah, the Solo movie would have been good too. Actually.
Now, I'm not a hater on the actor that did it. I was fine with it because I don't actually like the actor that I can't think of, Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
He wasn't a great actor. He's like my Johnny Depp.
He is Han Solo though.
I understand that he's Han Solo.
Yeah.
I get that, but like he's in my Johnny Depp like folder. They're not actually actors. They play themselves. Like it's like if you wanted somebody to play Merrick, I would be your best bet. I can nail that character. I can nail the voice. I can nail the mannerisms. I can be just as stupid as he is.
Yeah.
I can nail it. But I'm not acting. That's not acting. That's just asking me to be who I am.
Yeah.
The Rock, Johnny Depp, Harrison Ford, I feel like they all play a thing, and that's them. I don't think they act.
Yeah, well, definitely. I will say that there was a really good difference between Samuel L. Jackson's role in the Avengers, where he's kind of like this gruff guy with the eye patch and everything, versus it's the same character in this movie, but much younger. So he's starting off in the Force. He's not as cocky as he is on the earlier movies. So. I mean, there was a little bit of difference, but you're right. It's ultimately Samuel L. Jackson playing Samuel L. Jackson. And people love that. So, sure, just let him be himself, right? But it was so cool that they didn't have to go find someone that looked like a young Samuel L. Jackson to play this character, right? It was great to actually have the same actor do it. And I think it's going to allow... For the first time ever, it's going to allow actors to have work all the way until they die, basically. As long as they're able to be in front of a camera, they could be 80 years old, 90 years old, and they can still act whatever role they want. They're not locked into just old people roles anymore.
Yoda did this. I mean,
yeah.
I'm just going to say he's been in every single Star Wars except the Disney ones because they don't know what a good character is. He looked just as young in the later Star Wars that were made. All right, I'm going to put you on the spot. So if we're doing a movie one next week, and we're going to try to get Matthew, because I think you're right, because he did like that, and I remember like our friendship had struggles after he said he liked that. I think I just walked out. I'm going to put you on the spot. I'm going to ask for some ratings, and we're going to rate some categories.
Okay.
And so we can come back and revisit these and talk about exactly why you were wrong on those categories after somebody with more judgment watches it. All right. So acting, just as a general, I'm not talking about a single person, but acting as a whole of the main characters.
In Captain Marvel.
From 1 to 10. 10 being awesome, 1 being Batman versus Superman.
I would give it a 7. A 7 out of 10. Yeah.
All right. Character development. So, and by character development, for whoever, what I mean is when I'm looking at a movie, I want to see characters that I can care about, because I find the best when it doesn't have to be every character, but if they develop 3 or 4 different characters, I might be able to latch on to one.
Okay.
So like generally you need a mix. You can't just develop one character. And I think Rogue One did a really great job. There was several characters that had some background, and you could kind of align yourself with any one of them and enjoy it.
Yep.
So you need to not just build one character, you need to build a whole team. Character development.
Yeah, this one's a tough one because Marvel movies, like some of these characters that have been developed over several movies. But let's just take Captain Marvel herself, the main character, right?
Fair enough.
Because this is the first movie that she's appeared in.
Fair enough.
So for her, it's kind of tough.
Because it's about her, so they want to sell her.
Yeah, in order to dive into a little bit, it would be a little bit spoilery, and I don't want to do spoilers, so... I will say that the movie is a little like disjoint, and her character gets developed in like a really disjoint way, and I didn't like it. So we might talk about it some more after you've seen it. So I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 6.
If you want, we can do a range. Like if you want to do 5 to 7, because if you had like high points that you liked and low points that you didn't like,
I'm gonna go with a 6 today, and then after we rewatch it,
you can come back.
I might adjust that one because I felt like I wasn't following what was happening the first time that I watched it. I want to get your take on it too. Watching it a second time might change my opinion about it. So, but I'm going to go with a 6.
All right. So acting, character development, story. Now, these are all things, I am not just picking a random list. These are things I think that since Iron Man 1, Marvel has struggled with. They make a movie and they assume that you know the characters, so there's no need to build characters. So like Iron Man 2, guess what? I hated the dude in Iron Man 2 more than the first one. Like I actually liked his plight. He had a story. You saw the character develop into who he was. And then the rest of the movies, they did nothing with it. They were just like, yeah, you know who he is. No,
right.
But you can always build on that. Like stuff can happen and that character can evolve. And I feel like Marvel has been dropping the ball a lot recently.
Did you like the character development in Iron Man 1?
I love that. Is, I think, if I had to pick a Marvel movie that I would say is the best Marvel movie made, I think it was Iron Man 1.
I think I'd still agree with that. Iron Man 1 is still my favorite.
I think they did a good job with character development. The special effects were good, but not over the board.
Right.
The story and plot was good. You had a little twist, but not too much of like, not a Final Fantasy twist where, like everything you thought was wrong, but then that is wrong too, and you're just like, whoa, calm down.
Yeah, I think Iron Man 1 is still probably the perfect Marvel movie.
Couldn't agree more. So story, what would you give it? 10 being Iron Man 1, 1 being Batman versus Superman. I really can't think of something that went lower on.
I was kind of ranking the Marvel movies earlier today in my head, and I put this one higher than some of my least favorite ones. I think story-wise, I would also give it a 6.
A 6?
Yeah, a 6 out of 10. It's not my favorite Marvel story yet.
That's not the worst, though, because I'm thinking, like, Marvel has been... All right.
Yeah, and what I'm saying, though, I'm ranking it against other Marvel movies, because I think story-wise, it's still better than a lot of other movies. And I think for some people out there, they're going to really love it. But for me, when I compare it with other Marvel movies, it's not at the top.
Now, this is something that I think Marvel has struggled with. I think that Marvel got into this terrible rut. And every Marvel movie that I've seen since Iron Man 1 has kind of looked like a Marvel movie. Like, you could show it to me, and I could not see the superheroes. You could show me a scene that doesn't have superheroes in it to distinguish it as a Marvel movie, and I could probably tell you it was a Marvel movie. Yeah. So what would you give it on uniqueness? Does this movie, I understand that they are trying to set it in the same universe, and that's fine. I'm not complaining about this, but does this movie stand out to you?
It does stand out for a couple of reasons. There's some editing and some like story, like pacing that's very unique to this movie. The way that they introduced the character and how the character's disoriented. She's lost her memories from before.
Okay, not too many spoilers.
Not too many spoilers. I think this is in the trailer too. But you feel just as disoriented as the character while you're watching the movie, which can be good or bad depending on.
I kind of like that.
Yeah. So and this is early in the movie too, so it's not a huge spoiler.
It's
but
not the whole way through.
Yeah. So I would say that because of that, it's very unique. To the Marvel universe, at least.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I would give it like at least an 8.
It feels Marvel universe, but it's not like, oh, I've seen this before.
Visually, it's gonna match up with other Marvel movies. They do that on purpose, though. They want you to. It's almost like they have a brand, and they want to make sure that all the movies follow the same brand. Because when they do like a big Avengers movie, which is this movie is leading up to another Avengers movie.
When they do a big Avengers movie and they don't build character development or don't do story and don't do plot, and they just have superheroes running all over the place.
But at least you can watch the movies back to back and they all look the same.
Do you know the best Avengers movie?
What's that?
Captain America. Civil War.
Okay, Civil War, yeah.
Best Avenger movie, and it didn't have an Avenger.
You're right. I think, I might agree with that. My favorite Captain America movie is The Winter Soldier.
I didn't say favorite Captain America. I said favorite Avenger
movie. Yeah.
Even though it wasn't an Avenger movie.
Yeah.
By far the best Avenger movie. That was all I was going to say. And I actually didn't hate it as much. I liked the conflict that they did there. So.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have acting at 7, character development at 6, story at 6, uniqueness at 9. This is going pretty well. Do you want to give it an overall score to just wrap up the things that we didn't discuss? Visual effects, I'm assuming they used Industrial Light and Magic, which...
No, I think it's in-house. It's like Disney. I don't know if they use ILM.
Well,
maybe they do.
It's Disney in-house now because they bought Star Wars.
They did buy it, so I guess it is ILM. I don't know. I'll have to double check.
Industrial Light and Magic has, whether you hate the first Star Wars, like Star Wars episodes 1, 2, and 3, for their time.
Yeah, they hold up.
Those graphics looked amazing. Jar Jar Binks was stupid as a character, but he looked amazing.
Yeah, I mean,
eye candy, but...
Yeah. I think the special effects, just because of the work they were able to do on Samuel L. Jackson and also on the character Agent Coulson. I forget who the actor is.
The guy that doesn't die.
Yeah, the guy that never dies. Yeah. So that guy is in there too, and they made him look young as well.
Man, I need to go on this show.
Just because of that, I think I would give it at least a 9. Now the rest of the special effects, not the best, but the advances that they've done just in that field of making actors look young again, they've perfected it in my opinion, and I think for that they deserve a 9.
So 9 for special effects, but overall, is that also a 9? Or
I think overall I'd still give it a 9 just because of that.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's 9 out of 10.
I know, I am really dragging the score up because of one special effect.
I was going to say.
But it's one special effect that they had to continuously bring in. Almost every scene in the movie has a special effect in it. So
this special effect better be fantastic.
It's got to be good. Yeah.
We have acting at 7,
well,
character
think about it.
At 6.
If you're going to have a digital actor on screen, like 70% of the film, that digital actor has to look good, right? And they did it. And in this case, like, we're
not talking about Avatar.
No. I'm talking about, it's still a person. It's Samuel L. Jackson on the screen.
He just looked young.
But they have digitally changed them on every frame.
I'm not sure if that is actually... I'm not going to want to, take away from it. But making somebody look young would, mostly be, just smooth out wrinkles and stuff. I am not sure that they didn't just program an AI, and that just happened automatically.
Oh, I think that's what happened.
Okay,
it's totally an AI that's cleaning up the frame, but it doesn't matter. I don't care how they did it. It's just that they actually did it. Because they've tried to do this in so many films before.
Okay, guys, you should watch this movie only because Samuel L. Jackson looks young.
And on my like name title it says, didn't hate Transformers 1. The reason I didn't like or hate it is because it had awesome special effects. I will tell people to go watch a movie purely on special effects.
Okay.
So in this case, I think this movie deserves to be watched just because they did finally hit a new tier of special effects. Yeah.
I'm only going to say one of the sad things that, and I think as you stated, they're going to fix this, but when I saw Captain Marvel, I was kind of sad that Black Widow, Storm, or Phoenix weren't before. I mean, I feel like those people have all much more interesting stories, plots, character development. Especially now, Phoenix gets into the god tier level, but Black Widow, actually, I would have preferred because it's kind of one of those people that doesn't have
superpowers.
Yeah. It's like the Batman of Marvel, except more spy. James Bond of Marvel. I think that story, it could have just been amazing. Yeah. Storm is also not god tier, but has superpowers. So,
yeah, I want to say that there's a Black Widow movie coming out.
There better be a Black Widow movie.
So, the audience, tweet at us later or whatever. Just let us know, if there is one, and shoot us a link if there is one coming out.
Hit us up on Twitter at the Caviling. Let us know what you'd like us to talk about. If there's anything in particular that you find exciting or fun. If you've played a game recently. I was traveling and Linux, I have tried, does not play games very well. About the only thing I can play on Linux is Linux.
I'm sure there's some games.
Right? Yes, Dwarf Castle, which is actually coming out on Steam. Did you see that?
No.
Yes, they with a UI and everything. I'm actually going to play it.
Okay.
So yeah, or a movie, or your thoughts on these movies. No spoilers.
So there is a Phoenix movie coming out.
There is.
That's the third of the new. Actually, the fourth.
Because they just got X-Men, right?
Yeah, Disney bought X-Men back from Fox, so now you're gonna start seeing
X-Men movies.
Maybe this X-Men movie is still a Fox movie though. The new one that's coming out.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Thankfully.
Right. So Logan. It's still, and I think it's still directed by Bryan Singer, who directed the first X-Men.
Logan wasn't bad.
Logan was awesome.
I liked Logan.
Yep.
I actually haven't. There was some weird X-Men movies that shouldn't have been made. We can get into those.
We can probably do a whole episode on just X-Men.
And which ones to watch and which ones not to watch.
Yeah.
Because I feel like X-Men were one of those things where they were either awesome or terrible. Because I think it was X-Men 3 that it was I just regret.
Oh, that was a horrible movie.
Yeah,
and it was the first one that wasn't directed by Bryan Singer.
Maybe that's what it was.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was. Right. But yeah, so I feel like X-Men have very high highs and very low lows.
Right, yeah.
So, anyways, tweet at us. Let us know what you think. And we'll see you next week.
Yeah. So
thanks with Matthew.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Definitely follow us on Facebook or on any of the platforms that we're live on. Tweet at us. We will post the podcast on Podbean. And we'll post last week's episode and hopefully this week's episode this weekend or soon after.
Yeah, it took us a little time to get it all set up.
Yep.
Somebody was traveling and lazy.
We're busy people.
We've never put a podcast on somewhere, so there was a little research going on there.
So thanks again for watching, and we'll catch you next week.
Bye.